So today we're going to be discussing in-game news. The whole thing with Sony pushing back on releasing their first-party titles to PC and everything like that in between. And today we're going to be looking at Jake Baldino talk about that. If you don't know, this nigga is the one who was on Game Rank. It's going to be like this. Be doing all the before you buys, you doing the voiceover for that shit, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? He's well versed in this space. So, I'm going to be reacting to my boy Jake Baldino, you know what I'm saying? So, get comfortable. Let's watch the video.
It's Wednesday, so two things in the gaming news world I want to talk about. The first involves PlayStation and Sony seemingly doubling down on the PS5. And by that, I mean, it seems like they're pulling back from PC. Yes, this comes from a report from Bloomberg via Jason Schreier, who's gotten, of course, a lot of scoops correct in the past. There had been rumors about this and mumblings last week. I talked about it on the Game Ranks Friday news show, but now we have this full report breaking down him citing his sources saying that Sony's strategy is shifting to
keep your console, man.
Step away from putting their big first-party exclusives on PC, like we've seen with the Horizon games, with the Spider-Man games, with the God of War games, and what have you. This report suggests that Ghost of Yotei, one of its bigger, newer games, is not coming to PC. There were apparently plans, but that was scrapped. But
bro, I just finished Ghost of Yotei. Well, I finished it like back in last year, but I played it on the base PS5. And that shit looked fire. Imagine how that shit would have looked on my PC color, man. That shit crazy, bro.
Sticking with other certain things that make more sense, like obviously Marathon is coming like tomorrow, so Marathon is going to be on PC, as well as the Marvel fighting game, Marvel Tokon. It did clarify that Death Stranding 2 and the new Kena Bridge of Spirits, Kena Scars of Cosmora, those are still apparently coming to PC, but that's because it was more of a thing developed by external studios. Like, I believe Death Stranding 2 is actually developed by Koji Pro, so there's that. But the report did say, and I quote, people caution that things could change in the future due to the unpredictable nature of the video game industry, and that's Sony's plans are constantly shifting. The translation is they could step away from PC.
I think they're doing that because they rumor, like, what is, it's not rumor, it's actually an actual thing. It's like a PC console. I forgot what it's called, but that's dropping. So this is probably a move for that Sony is attempting to do because of that whole thing. So it's like, why the fuck do I need a PlayStation if I could play these PlayStation exclusive titles on this PC console and it looks better on here? You know what I'm saying?
But then also change their mind later on. God knows. The report suggests, and I agree, that there might be a few reasons behind this shift, with specifically the games not selling as well as on PC as they thought, and then maybe there's this whole thing where they're concerned about games launching on PC hurting their brand or hurting their brand image and potentially hurting future sales of PS5. So here they are essentially fully committing to the PS5, because like we talked about last Wednesday, where I talk about news things every Wednesday here on this channel, last week we talked about seemingly PlayStation 6 isn't coming anytime soon. So like in a lot of ways, I expected Sony to really prioritize moving consoles they already have and enticing people. And one of the ways they do that is with things that make the PS5 Pro more attractive, PSSR, stuff like that. But also the biggest thing, games and exclusivity. Me personally, my personal feelings, like, I'm not stupid. I understand PlayStation, as an experiment, maybe they put their games on PC.
I played that on base.
They're not selling, so they're pulling back. They're committing to their original brand PC, more so. Whatever, like, they're following the money, but I like the option. I like the choice. I liked occasionally double dipping on a game. Like, I bought Ghost of Tsushima on PC, and that thing ripped on PC. That was really cool to see. And I know I'm not the only person, but I also just like being online constantly and reading comments and like my job and stuff like that. I have seen significant portions of audiences, like when we put out reviews for PS5 exclusives on Game Ranks, people will always say, awesome, I'm so excited to play this a year from now when it comes to PC. So people were starting to get used to that being a thing, even if their strategy with it and when they would do it and how they would release it, like their timelines were always kind of murky and all over the place. But it seems like that's ending, but I was happy to partake in that personally as a PC player. I've always had a PlayStation console for exclusives, but I enjoy playing things on PC, so I appreciated the flexibility, but that might be going away here. Having said that, I just think this is interesting because the reasons the article also suggests is like there's a lot of possibilities, like the fact that Microsoft's Xbox, like their next Xbox might be like a Windows focused device, so they maybe want to avoid having their big flagship titles on a competitor's machine, whatever. I don't know. Another thing, like I'm just pulling out of my ass, maybe it was like a quality control thing. Like they're always
Steam machine. That's what it's called. Steam machine.
locked down on their games coming out on console, that when they came out on PC, it was a little more unpredictable. Some ports, when they launched, I believe it was the original Horizon game when that came to PC, the quality wasn't quite up to snuff here and there. So maybe it's like a quality control thing. I don't know. Whatever the hell it is. I think it's interesting because when you look back, this strategy technically started in, I believe, 2020. Now, they could have had a few years to build up to that, but I look at 2020 as kind of an inflection point for a lot of things, obviously, right? But the big thing is things were kind of all over the place with the pandemic and like supply shortages and shit like that. And like the PS5 launch was kind of rocky. There weren't enough consoles out there. They only had so many games in development and games delayed because of COVID and stuff like that. I see this thing as it was an experiment in 2020 when everybody was getting crazy, right? Everybody was doing crazy shit. They were essentially, and again, my theory is that they were maybe trying to expand their IP because they didn't know what the future would hold for their console, for the market, what have you. They wanted their IP, they wanted their games out there more because it was kind of like a fuck it, let's see what happens type of period. Now, things are different. Things are weird in their own way now. So they're trying to go back and double down on what they did, which is essentially just here's the console, here's the exclusives, that's it. While Xbox does whatever the hell they're doing, and then Nintendo Switch kind of just always doing their same thing. Sony seems to maybe just recommit here to doing things the old-fashioned way, and I'm curious to see how that goes. It's certainly interesting, that's for sure. This stuff keeps me on my toes, and I'm not like a console war person. Like, I'm not doing this video where I'm like, see, I told you guys, PlayStation's better. I don't care. I just think the business parts of it are actually pretty interesting. But the big thing is like, how do we net out as consumers? And for me, I feel like I'm a little bit more at a loss now because I'm potentially losing the option of playing some of these games on my PC. But I speak from a privileged position because I have a PS5 and a PC. So let me know what you think, where you land on this whole complicated thing. Next up, the other bit of news involves Resident Evil, one of my favorite things to talk about. I do have a spoiler video. I've seen your comments. I saw your comments on the last video. I am working on a spoiler video. It's probably not going to be out for like a week or so because of timing things on my calendar and stuff like that. But please keep your eyes.
I have Resident Evil. I bought it like the beginning of this week, and I tried to set up my capture device and my microphone on that, and bro, the audio from the game clipped it, and it just didn't sound right. So I'm like, all right, bro, let me just go ahead and get the PC because using the MacBook is gonna give you butt so far. If I show y'all my setup, y'all be like, what the fuck? Because with Apple, bro, I got 2 USB Type-C ports, and then I bought a hub. And it got all these different ports on it, but it doesn't work with the audio or it's bullshit, honestly. So I had to get a PC or whatnot, but I have a series with that coming soon, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to start doing gameplays or whatnot, but I had to get a PC to kind of make the whole thing smooth or whatnot. But yeah, Resident Evil 7 is on the way.
For that, I'm excited. It's probably going to be like 20 minutes long at least. But Resident Evil Requiem, they did confirm just as
Requiem, on this.
Today that it sold 5 million units in 5 days, apparently selling faster than the modern Resident Evil games and specifically the remakes and stuff like that, which is cool. I think it shows, number one, that it's not just all remakes. Resident Evil Requiem is an all-new game in the franchise. It's a sequel, yes, but like it's an all-new game. It's not a remake, and it did gangbusters, showing that people still have an appetite for new things. Yes, existing franchises, but new things. That being said, we're going to talk about a rumor of another remake right now. So this comes from Dusk Golem, aka Aesthetic Gamer, who has gotten a lot of Resident Evil scoops and leaks and things right in the past, suggesting that a Resident Evil 1 remake is coming. Now, most people ruled this out because Resident Evil 1 already has a remake, right? Hang on, let me go to my cabinet of curiosities here. Resident Evil remake, which now when you look at the math, the distance between Resident Evil 1 and then Resident Evil 1 remake on GameCube, the span of years is not very long. It's crazy. But tangent aside, this is incredible, and most people assume that the 2 remake was the new one, and then this was just the remake of 1. But now it seems like they're going to remake 1 all over again, according to this rumor. Dusk Golem suggests that this is very, very far a ways off, like it only just started rolling into some sort of production, probably pre-production, and he suggests that the Code Veronica remake is still very much a thing. He also goes into some interesting things about things that were cut from Resident Evil 9 Requiem, which definitely feels, as much as I like the game, definitely feels jacked up here and there in terms of like things, and there might be things missing. He suggests that there was potentially a thing that they were working on where you would go back to the original Spencer Mansion, which feels weird because it kind of imploded, but whatever. He kind of says that like part of the reason why that was scrapped is because in Code Veronica, if you played Code Veronica, if you know, there's like this whole part with a recreation of the original mansion there. And then the fact that they're also remaking Resident Evil 1 means they didn't want to have too much mansion out there at once. Weird theory, weird explanation, but I think a Resident Evil 1 remake can be likely. I mean, the fact that Resident Evil lore and like, you know, references to older games is still going strong at this point. It could be cool. Honestly, I think as long as it's as good as Resident Evil 2 and how well they did that, that is something I would very much like to see, with Resident Evil 1 and 2 really being near and dear to my heart since the old days back in the 90s. Side note from the Resident Evil 1 remake, like whatever, I do think it's interesting to hear once again from another leaker, scooper person that the Code Veronica remake is a thing. We've heard so many things about this. It seems like one of the worst kept secrets at this point. I've even heard it. I heard about this being remade like a couple of years ago now at this point. And I hope that is the case because it's a tough game. It's a weird one. It's a tricky one. But it's also cool. It's got a lot of incredibly unique, iconic moments that helped make it stand out, including some of the creature and boss designs. And I'm excited to see if that is going to have a new lease on life. That being said, a Resident Evil 1 remake, it would be very cool to see again. I would like to see it, you know, in the same vein, the quality and care and love and passion as Resident Evil 2 remake, but this is so good. This is so unbelievably good. It's available on every platform. I don't want to hear complaints about tank controls. I don't care if I'm showing my age, but I don't want to hear it. Oh no, my discs are starting to degrade a little bit. Uh-oh. Remember this? You fucking remember this? Full color instruction manual. Remember these? Oh my God. Madon. What a time. Anyway, that was another excuse for me to talk about Resident Evil for a second. It's Resident Evil fever right now. So let me know what you think in the comments about everything we talked about. Resident Evil, of course. Do you think that they could do a remake justice? I mean, if anything, I think where they could really benefit is the characters and giving the characters a little more oomph, a little something behind them. Kind of like how Silent Hill 2 remake, it's still the same story, but a new actor, new portrayal, new performance really gave a little bit of extra weight to James's character and emotion behind that story. I think Resident Evil 1 could use some of that, kind of like how Resident Evil 2 remake gave a little more chemistry between Leon and Claire. Resident Evil 4 remake gave a little extra context to Leon's character and his training before that game. Resident Evil 1 could flesh out the stars people feeling like people and not just kind of superhero cartoon characters. Give them a little extra, give them a little something, because even in the remake, as great as this was, they, you know, Chris and Jill specifically were still a little flat, and they could work with that at least. That's where I'd like to see something. But again, I was supposed to wrap up this video. I could just talk about Resident Evil. So let me know what you think about the potential remakes and all that. Let me know what you think about Requiem selling all that much. What does that mean for the franchise? That's a whole question. It's a whole nother video I could probably do, but let me know what you think about that. And PlayStation changing their PC strategy. Are you bummed? Are you a PC only player? Are you going to miss out on these things now? Let me know. Let's talk about this stuff down in the comments. I definitely want to hear from you. Thank you if you clicked on the sponsor. I really appreciate you. Or just watching, regardless. Thanks for clicking the like button if you didn't already. I'm talking about stuff I love here. I hope you get it. Buckle up. Join the ride. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me. See ya.
It's that boy. Hey, shout out to that boy Jake Baldino, man. The PC news is a bummer. I ain't gonna lie. purchase the PC, and I kind of would like, you know what I'm saying, the PlayStation ports to keep rolling in, but it is what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? They got plenty of other exclusives on that I could jump into, you know what I'm saying? But if you like the video, you know what I'm saying, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit, man. It's your boy Vel. Let's catch y'all boys on the next one.